What is up, guys? Andrew here, and welcome to Comicbooker. All things comics from a creator. Okay, so it seems like audio and all this other stuff is working. Fingers crossed we're technically sound for the day. I'm gonna actually let me start some music here, and then I'll start talking about what I'm on about. All right. Hopefully that's not too loud. Do let me know if it's a little loud, and I'll modulate a bit. But okay, so this is the comic book I talked about during my last stream. This is called Red Thunder in the Lost in the Realm Below, and it is a Secret Heart Attack special that is meant to be read alongside the main Secret Heart Attack series, but is its own pocket story that is a standalone. Basically, you can read this on its own and you should be fine. I'm so hyped about it. So this is the cover. I worked on this during the last stream. I think we were doing some flats and stuff. And here is the time-lapse replay. And you can kind of see how the layout sort of came together. Initially, it was a lot more like of an action-y type thing. And then I sort of moved it to something calmer. And again, my idea for this is that we have these weird sort of like stick figure type characters mixed in with some demons, monsters that sort of feel old school, a little washed out and scary. And obviously I did like more of a thorough inking job on the thing, and kind of drew it as I colored it. So this is actually a little atypical for a cover, but because it's very busy, and now like this is me sort of like grouping it all so I can kind of control the values and organize all of these individual characters into something a little more coherent. So usually it helps to like shadow shade it. And then obviously the colors calm down a little and we get something a little more controlled. And I drew in this background that's supposed to sort of be like a rough implication of the underworld behind him. And we see their little Lorna clutching onto Red Thunder. And I draw back the stick figure characters in last because I think it's cool. They kind of go over everything a bit like a child's drawing on top of everything else. So anyway, this is what it looks like. This is the cover. I actually may tweak this a little bit more. And actually, I'm not into this music, so maybe let's change tracks. Boom. I'm not into this music too. I don't know what this playlist is. Epidemic Sound kind of gave this to me and I'm like, I don't know, man. Here. Okay. Whew. Alright, that's more of the vibe. Thank you for being patient with that very dire and crazy opening. Okay, so we're gonna relax. This is all I've done so far. And this is the idea of like an image telling 1,000 words. The story is encapsulated in this. This is sort of the classical idea of it. But we shift over to what basically I've had is, this is the script, right? Which I wrote out in notes. I don't know if you can read that on YouTube. Hopefully it shows up. It might be a bit pixelated, but basically I broke it down into pages, and in each page, it's really just me thinking about the words and the flow of the words. So I try to think of the words as an over narrative that goes over the visuals, And so as I'm like closing my eyes and I'm thinking of like what the story's doing, right? What images are playing out. I also try to come up with the head track, the narrative in my head, because this is sort of a narration focused comic, and then it shifts to dialogue back and forth, hopefully in a very pleasing way. So I played it out as a kind of a 12-page story because, you know, my training is in doing much shorter pieces. If you go on my website, you're gonna see like a few short comics, and obviously my first book is a collection of short comics, and I tend to do think in like 8-page blocks, right? But then once I've had that, I started laying out the pages, and I started to expand certain sequences into more and more pages. So for example, the first page, which was supposed to have just the title and credits on it, if you can see by the script here, right? I've expanded into 3 pages. So now we have this opening page, right? With kind of a sketch of what's going on. And it goes into this double page spread. And I've added captions to kind of emphasize what's going on. And obviously this is just a very rough placeholder for the title as it's gonna look. I just think it's gonna be a really cool effect to have that double page spread feeling really echoey and empty as you're like, okay, so here's our main character and they're in trouble. How did we get here? And then we flash back, and this is where we are. So what I did right now is I've kind of thrown the words onto the page so I can see them as blocks that I can move around, right? Each of these are made with a font, and I can just sort of like move them around in the layout. And this is really helpful in the early design stage because I don't want to run out of space for the words, and I want the drawings and the words to really marry with each other very well. So you know, being able to move it around is helpful, and also being able to draw the main elements around it and make sure that everything fits comfortably. That's really helpful. Yeah, so I hope that explains things so far. Wait, let me check the chat. I haven't checked the chat. Give me a sec. Is anyone here? No one's here. Oh, wait. Hi, Gragon Maximud asks, do you prefer iPad over pen display? Right now I do. I actually have an XP pen. It's there in my closet right now, but I haven't set it up since, you know, I moved here, and it's been a little busy since I shifted over to my new studio. So it's there, but I also haven't really been able to use it because I have a full-time job, and so I don't actually get to use my studio as much. So I have to like be able to bring my work with me and draw on the train and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what's going on. That's why I like the iPad, because it's portable. It's more portable than an XP pen display. And it's just easier to whip out on the train or on a bus if you're working. Yeah. So okay, so here we are on this is page 4, and this is page 5, and now it's like, you know, what happens in layouts is I draw the roughest, ugliest version of what I see in my head. Whoops, give me a second. Give me a sec. Something happened. Boom. Okay. There we go. I draw the roughest, ugliest version of what's going on in my head, and then I just refine from there, right? And the nice thing about having a version of it in my head like this is, you know, when it's rough, you can sort of mess with it. you can take a lasso tool, scale it down, scale it up, move it around, and you can really just design the page, you know? Because if you detail something too much, if you add too much love and effort into a drawing, there's a tendency to not want to move it anymore and to not want to edit it. So, yeah. So that's my rough drawing. There is a... Actually, maybe... Yeah. Maybe we have a room that's got something like this. And actually, now that I'm doing this, I can kind of notice that we should break this into like maybe 2 panels or something. So the witch says, cut. Let's cut that. Cut. There we go. She says, yes, there are shreds of fiber, shreds of reality in the fibers of this stuffed toy, right? Whoops. Period. Duplicate, and then I'm gonna move that next one here. Paste. There we go. Which could only mean one thing. And I think what I'll do is move that down here and move kind of Red Thunder. Red Thunder's in the room with the good witch. He is consulting with her because she's a magic user. He's also a bit of like a magic type character, but not like in a knowledgeable magical sense. He got his gifts from an angel. He's a bit of a bruiser, a brawler. And so he's not knowledgeable on these things. And she's our character who knows all about this stuff. It's witchy, scary stuff. And that's the info he needs in order to kind of get along with the plot. So I think I want an inset panel here, like this. Something like that. Where we see the teddy bear. From the POV of the witch. And maybe her silhouette here. Let's maybe move that there. Right. I might not put that into pure black, but for now, that's what's gonna be. Boom. And he says, tell me straight, Yaya Kadabra, right? And this third panel actually will serve as a bit of an establishing shot for the magic sort of room. My idea is that this witch, Yaya Kadabra, who's actually an old character that I worked on in back in the Philippines when I lived there. She was in this book, anthology book, I did called Project Hero, and I wrote and drew her. And you know, she was in the Philippines, a yaya is like a caregiver for children, and Yaya Kadabra is like a magic caregiver, right? And who's taking care of a child that is destined to save all of reality or end it, right? And I imagine, like, when I bring Yaya Kadabra into this story, she's old now, so she's definitely not made for adventures, but she's still sort of like full of all this knowledge that can be of help and use to Red Thunder. And obviously she wants to save this young girl that's disappeared, so I'm gonna do a bit of like a callback to her retro outfit, because that's the aesthetic of this comic. Like, Red Thunder, if you recall, is sort of like an old school, you know, Superman type character, and it's supposed to feel very retro. And so, you know, she's in his world, and we're also gonna make sure she also feels a little corny and a little retro, right? Because that's cool. Retro cool! Oh wait, let me check the chat, I'm sorry. Tuko Erquilin! Hello, hello! Question, so you just do one full page at a time and assemble the whole comic outside Procreate? Actually, no. I do the whole comic in Procreate. Like, literally, I did this cover here in Procreate. You know. So, yeah, this was all drawn here. From layout to completion, right? This is the really rough version of it. There we go. It looked like that. And basically, every page you see that I'm doing right now will look sort of like this at this stage, during the layout stage, right? It's only, you know, me using the advantage of Procreate and any digital program, which is that you can just keep refining and layering and moving forward from there. So even though it looks kind of rough here, over time, we apply our art skills and anatomy and thought and pressure and all that stuff and make it nice as we go. So that's kind of like how I'm doing it here. We go really rough and then we move forward. And actually, let me show like one of my DC Comics pages as an example. Maybe this one. Did I ink this offsite? Let me check. So, did I ink this? No. So, okay. So, great. So this is a Batwoman Spirit World story I did for DC. Oh my god, I don't remember the name. Wait, no, okay, it was DC Pride, and it came out last year, right? And I worked on this with Jeremy Holt Brooks, amazing writer, and you know, so it looks polished at the start, but like actually this is what it looked like in layout stage. See how rough everything is, right? And then as I move forward, I kind of just refine. So this is sort of like a pencil stage. And you'll notice the figures are sort of changing in size as I move forward. This is me sort of planning out where the word balloons will go, even though I'm not lettering this. And then as we move forward, you can see the drawing just gets more and more refined. And so, yeah, the inking just gets more and more refined as we move forward. I do some shadow washes and stuff like that. And then I do flats and then I color it, right? So this is what the final page looks like after all of that. But we can't forget that all of that coolness started as kind of this, right? So yeah, I guess that's the sort of one major tip I want to impart on you. If you're making a comic right now, at least, you know, this is how I like to do it. draw it really ugly. Draw it really rough, because, you know, that way you're really focused on the storytelling, because polish can come later with a steady application of time and effort, with using reference and all this other stuff. But if your storytelling doesn't work, the comic doesn't really read very well. So, and also if it kind of reads well in stick figure rough form, then it's likely to read very well when it's polished, right? Okay, so this is the big part where we get that intense close-up. And in my head, this page is a zoom in to Yaya Kadabra's wizened old face. With a bit of underlighting, right? The light is coming up from down there as she tells the horrible truth about what's happened in the story, which is the child has fallen into the half-world beneath ours, right? And as she says this, I want to do like a panel behind her. We've established her background is going to be sort of her shop and everything, but I actually want the background behind her to be a hazy version of that underworld, sort of that hellscape. So I'm just going to draw in some rough like ruins in the background, maybe, you know, some bat creatures or whatever. There's like a black sun in this place, so it's like a really gloomy, depressive underworld type thing, which is what we saw in the opening shot, but this is what she's telling us about, right? And then we cut to Red Thunder saying, "I refuse to accept that." And I really want this to feel a little aggressive and plain. Sorry, give me a sec. So I'm thinking of a straight on shot where he's like a little angry because she says you cannot save her, right? He's like, how could you even think that? That's not an option. It's not an option that, you know, we lose a child. He is a superhero and he's gonna make sure she is saved, and it doesn't matter how, right? And so maybe his cape flutters a little bit in the wind as he says, "I refuse to accept that." And she has a silhouette over here, something like that, right? Boom. Oops, too much. I need like there we go, something like that. I need to close this shape just so I can like fill it properly. There we go. Okay, that'll do, right? We have that. And then the last panel is again an overhead shot, because I think I did an overhead shot over here where Red Thunder investigates the child's room, right? And there's a sense of dread. So I want to repeat that as a bit of like a story motif over here, where Yaya Kadabra is telling him that basically he has to journey into a place of no return. And an overhead shot, I'm thinking of like, roughly, it's gonna be like a 1-point perspective, right? They're standing like that, so that's his legs. It's gonna be like that, and then it's gonna have his cape sort of fluttering like that. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Let me check the chat. If there's any questions. Tuko says, lol, you always start messy with the ideation. Yes, you always want to start messy. Gragon asks, are you on the Apple ecosystem? Yes, I'm very much so. Last year, my PC died. My PC of like 6 years or something like that, and I ended up switching to an M2 MacBook Pro, and basically I'm all in on the Apple ecosystem now. So Dragon asks, does Blender feel better on low to mid specs, since I'm thinking of using CSP and Blender for comics because my background sucks? I can't speak to Blender. I've done a few experiments with it, but I haven't used it for backgrounds. I know some artists do. But you know, right now I'm just drawing my backgrounds full on. So yeah. But I do think Blender is, since it's a high-end 3D program, you will want higher specs. Because, you know, I think the current M chips, especially if you go up to the Pro and the Max, they have like a dedicated encoder or hardware accelerator for 3D, and that should, you know, help. Tuko asked, I also have Adobe CC, but I like Procreate for just doodling, straight up illustration, but I have just started though. Tuko, a lot of artists draw completely on Adobe, and a lot of amazing color artists also do stuff on Adobe. Like, one of the channels you should follow that I love is colorist Matt Hollingsworth. You've seen his work in Daredevil and Hellboy and Seven to Eternity and all these other wonderful image books. He colors in Photoshop, and so I think he uses a Wacom tablet, maybe even a Cintiq. I'm not sure. He probably could afford a Cintiq, yeah, and all that stuff. So he probably uses a Cintiq. And he draws straight on there. Gosh, guys, if I had a Cintiq and I could spend time in the studio, I would probably work on the Cintiq as well. But for now, yeah, I have to be mobile. And so iPad it is. Alright, so it looks like I did some layouts here, more or less. Yeah. So, I might redo this. And let's switch the track a bit. Sorry. Boom. Is that better? Okay. Clifford Go, hello, kamusta kababayan? I love it when a fellow Filipino just pops into the stream. This is great. Yeah. Let's do this. And here, I kinda wanna use I always like to tilt the panel a little bit when something happens with perception. Like, it makes me feel like things are unsteady, so I like that. And then we might do an overlap here because there's some bit about like the place affecting perception. So this is looking like a 4-panel page, something like that. That goes here. All right, and the page is arranged actually around the most important panel, which is that we see Red Thunder here in the foreground, and he's wearing his cape as sort of like a cloak, right? To protect from the dust. The places has like these dust winds and stuff like that. And he pushes aside a random piece of rubble because he thinks he hears something, like it could be the child's voice, right? And it's not the child, right? It's the monsters that we see on the cover. So there's a bunch of them, and they're crawling all around here in like a big splash. So it's a really frightening sight where we see all these like creepy EC Comics horror characters, or like even like old school demons and stuff like that, versus what is essentially like a really positive, hopeful character. And they're swearing, and they're saying horrible things. So, and then we'll get a fight right after this page. And now that I have the most important panel sort of laid out, it's gonna look something like that. I may tweak it a little bit, maybe actually make him slightly smaller, or twist it a little. Something like that. And actually, maybe it's better if his head sort of... I don't want to hyperfixate, but maybe it's better if his head sort of like breaks that line there. And if his foot is back like this, like he just walked in. There we go. Practically a stick figure, but like, you know, roughly get the proportions in. And that way, yeah, we have a lot of space to draw these monsters. And then here, I see his face as sort of like... like that, like he's... like he's sort of peering over that ledge. And then over here, I might want to move this up a little bit, like there. And I want to move this over here. I might actually move it like that. There we go. So see what I see? Like what I'm saying about how like it's helpful to kind of do it this way because you're designing the letters into it, and making sure the image really harmonizes with the narrative, right? Tuko says, do you write any of this down while you do roughs, or you just think out loud and do the roughs? I'm actually trying to articulate what I'm thinking, but if I were not doing this on live stream, I would be very quiet while doing this. The reason I'm just talking is because, you know, it's a live stream and I kind of want to share my thought process, but this is literally like this is like 4 to 8 hours of me in silence, hunched over stick figure drawings, and doing the layouts in pure silence. I might have like music like this in the background, or like headphones on. But yeah, I have the story in my head because I did write it out here. I know the overall plot, and you know, And I don't want it to be, how do I say this? Because I have the overall plot and the script is a bit rough, there are kind of spaces for me to freestyle and improvise, and it makes the experience of doing layouts and telling the story fun, right? Actually, this is one of the most dynamic phases, because here everything can change, and it's very liquid, right? As it gets more refined and detailed, you have less and less room to maneuver because you're just trying to polish things. And so I really, really enjoy this phase. And I think, you guys, if you're making your own comics, it's really helpful to spend time on this phase. Like, one of my favorite artists is Frank Whiteley, and he talked about the reason of him being slow isn't so much like the amount of time he spends on polish, because his stuff is very polished, but like he actually spends most of his time thinking through the storytelling and doing layouts and making really like practically incomprehensible squiggles that negotiate the story visually in various ways. So here she had warned him about how this place affects perception, and at that point I actually want like there's no way to like to do it in a font because it has to be drawn, but I want a word bubble that has like a indecipherable whispers, right? And then maybe you see it here too. And there's that's the word balloon coming from off panel. And then finally, in this panel, you see that the creature is saying this stuff, right? And it's just swear words. It's really mean, horrible dialogue, which is the convention I'm gonna give to all the demons and monsters, because I think this story is about depression, and so I want to use that language because he's in the underworld. It's about going into the dark place, right? And comics are best when you use them as a metaphor. When you use them to like literalize very abstract metaphorical things. All right, let's get the first panel done. And then the first panel is like probably back to a close-up. Something like that. And he has his cowl, and the wind is rustling, and maybe we see some buildings in the background. His memory is drifting. We're in that bad place, and we don't know what's going on, right? And now I'm looking at it, this caption is a little too fat, so I'm gonna cut it in half. And we're gonna keep that here. I know I'm fat shaming a caption, I'm sorry. Let's move that up there. Let's move this here. Something like that. And we're gonna move the rest of this caption here. And I'm gonna make sure that the word sort of this page. Gonna go to the next one. And I think we are at the action scene, right? And the action scene is cool because it trades out with dialogue from Yaya Kadabra. As she says stuff, it cuts to the present where Red Thunder is dealing with the thing she's talking about, right? And right now, as I'm moving letters around, I'm thinking of like what I'm gonna draw in that space. And it's awesome! So, the first panel is probably really chill. Very calm. And it's got the old woman sort of looking down. Very calmly, stilly. It's very centered also, and grim. Maybe even like lit from above. I imagine there's like candles behind her or something as she says stuff. And then this is clearly in the past, so it will have like a very thick border, something like that, to separate it out from the front. I think I might do a color trick too, where the real world is a lot more saturated and the underworld is like gray, right? We'll see. And then here we have Poor Red Thunder. Holding on to his teddy bear. And trying to communicate with these creatures. There's his belt. I plan for his clothes to be like a little ragged, so... But communicate with his creatures as actually they start to swarm him. And some of them are like evil stick figures that look like living children's drawings. And I want some drool and maybe a gust of wind in the background to sort of make us feel like something bad's about to happen, right? And then here we get a panel broken up by some sort of weird wind. And Red Thunder collapses as the creatures just attack him. And he's still holding on to the teddy bear as he collapses, so he's trying to protect it with his life because it's really important. And I'm just gonna draw some quick notations here that the creatures are attacking. And I really want them to have kind of this wave sort of motion to them. So what'll happen is I'm gonna orchestrate, once I get it to like, you know, pencils, I'm gonna orchestrate it so like all of their limbs and stuff go in this crazy sort of monstrous wave formation. Yeah. By the way, let me check on the chat. Skids is here! Yo! Hello, Skids. Welcome. Skid says, I don't recommend anyone do this, but I never have a script on my webtoon. I just let the story play out in my head and I draw it out. See, it's really fun to do that. It's not great if you have a longer story, but it's definitely like, you know what they say when you... this is gonna sound salacious, but it's not what I mean, right? When you say you ride bareback, right? That's what the term is for when you ride a horse without a saddle, right? That's what they call it. Because it's the bare back of the horse, and then you sit on it, right? And that's how I feel about like working without a script or a well worked out script. There's less protection. You don't know where the story's gonna go necessarily. But also, it's a little more thrilling because it's more free. It feels like you have more room to maneuver. You feel less encumbered. So, if you can just trust yourself to figure out that the story will go somewhere satisfying and follow your nose as that happens, I think it's a perfectly valid way to make comics, especially short comics. Now, long comics, I do think at a certain page count, you really need to start planning things. Otherwise, you're in danger of not finishing your comic. But yeah. Dragon says, do you guys ever read Ruri the Dragon? No, I can't say I do, but like if you drop a link in the chat, that'd be super cool. Maybe we can check it out. So that's the beginning of the action scene, and this is one of those pages where I broke it up into multiples because I just wanted more room to draw cool, scary stuff happening. So actually, we'll do it that way. And here I kind of want the panel borders to just be scary and suffocating, like that. And the idea is here, right? We get Red Thunder flexing. Flexing in such a way that the monsters are repelled, right? And they're thrown off him. But that's gonna be the... I'm working backwards. This is gonna be like the release part of the page. The rest of it is like him getting swarmed. So this is him covered in monsters and creatures as they overtake him, and he's really frustrated, and his eyes are sort of like scrunched as he tries to marshal his strength in order to flex, right? So this is the tightest panel, and then moving out we have him struggling. Maybe he punches something. See that arm going in this direction. Maybe we have the face of a creature like that. But even as he's punching, holding the bear, another creature has its arms around him. And obviously here we'll have even more creatures sort of dashing around. And if I look back at the previous page, yeah, we have the swarming here. So yeah, this is like action scene choreography. I think this is from the ground, so it's the ground beneath him. And the creatures are above him. Yeah, so there's a creature that pounces on him, is above him. He punches it off him, and the other creatures swarm him anyway. And then he flexes and throws them all off. And in the final panel, he's running away from the creatures. And the creatures some of them may like run after him, some of them may stay behind, but the action scene kind of ends on that note of like, you don't want to keep fighting these things because, you know, it's just going to be endless. You just need to escape, disengage, and then move. And that's page 9. And we are going to hit the halfway point here. Page 10. I'm actually gonna stop the stream at this page, so because I don't want to spoil where the story goes right after, but at least, you know, you guys will have a general taste for it, right? Again, this is another panel where it's just a square panel and we see Yaya Kadabra's hands as she clutches the bear, the teddy bear, and she's putting her other fingers on it because she's casting a spell on this stuffed toy, which is supposed to help it be a guide to the lost child. So I actually might move this lasso tool, move this stuff here, boom, and move the dialogue over here, right? That way it's on the side where her mouth is coming from, so boom. And then down here is all fun stuff, so we have Red Thunder having escaped and run away from the creatures. Coming upon a bit of a valley, and then maybe it bleeds down here, and it's like, this is like I think I'm gonna make this a montage where we have like the panels bleeding into each other, right? So he is here, we see him kind of scaling down the valley into a hole, and it gets darker as we get down there. And then here we have a little more of a close-up as he is at the bottom of the panel looking up. Hope that makes sense. Boom. And then that leaves 10 more pages. But yeah, it's 10:30. Hopefully that was helpful. I don't know if that sort of like gave a nice peek into the process of laying out a comic. I hope that was helpful to some of you. I mean, the big thing for me is like, it doesn't have to be pretty at the start, you know. It just has to be like, you know, it has to be an understandable way to for you to understand your story and be able to like refine from there, right? Let me check the chat really quick. Skid says, will you be selling your comic during Free Comic Book Day? No, because it's Free Comic Book Day, and so whatever comics I have to give, I'm gonna give them away for free on Free Comic Book Day. So yeah, we'll see what I can cobble together for that. I think that's this May, so we'll see. Tuko asks, do you post any coloring portions of your comics pages? So I think I have a few videos where I'm coloring here and there. My last live stream last week was sort of like a peek into the flatting stage. So I invite you to watch that. It's I think it's like a Red Thunder cover, drawing a Red Thunder cover or something like that, which is the title. But that's me going through the flatting stage of the coloring process as I worked on an early version of this cover, which, you know, is more or less finished now. But yeah, check out some of my other videos. I'm pretty sure I've covered coloring in a bunch of them. And as I move forward with this project, I plan to live stream, you know, the process of how I go through. So I will be checking in on live streams here and there until this this comic is finished. Because this one I can, you know, I can show, whereas some of my other projects, I'm on a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't really post those. So yeah, my indie stuff is more likely for me to show the process with here. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for being on this stream. People who popped by, people, especially like the people who took the time to comment on the chat. I really appreciate you. Thank you for you know, asking questions, and if you have any leftover questions, you know, feel free to comment or message me on IG. And for the many of you who watch these live streams after the fact, like, because I post them and I leave them up and somehow people still watch it, thank you for the support. Yeah, I hope you're getting something out of it. And obviously, let me know if there's anything else, you know, you want to know about that. Maybe I can work it into my schedule. Yeah. Any case, it's really late. I work in the morning, so I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy Wednesday, happy New Comics Day. Oh, and happy X-Men 97 Day, because the latest episode is fire. I really recommend watching it if you haven't yet. And yeah, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.